Okay, next we're going to do our Education Award winner, Patrick Byrne of Lynn, Massachusetts, Branch 7. James Byrne, the son of Lynn, Massachusetts, Branch 7 President Patrick Byrne, had a good upbringing and strong family ties. He had a master's degree in computer science and made a good living in information technology. But throughout his adult life, James was hooked on heroin. He had periods of sobriety, but circumstances always seemed to steal them away from him eventually. James had enjoyed 7 months clean of drugs when an old friend and fellow addict called him one January day in 2014 to beg James to find him some heroin. After first refusing, James gave in and bought some for the friend, but apparently couldn't resist using it himself. The friend called James on his cell phone over and over, trying to plan a meeting to get the heroin, as James lay dying of an overdose on the floor of his sister's house, which was just down the street from his father's home. That's where Patrick found him. He was 40 years old. When his son died, Pat already had an understanding of the immense difficulties of dealing with chemical dependency. After retiring from the Postal Service in 2006, Pat had counseled homeless people in Lynn, many with substance abuse problems and the mental illness that often comes with those problems. His son's death put the issue in sharp focus, Pat said, as did the reaction of scores of letter carriers from his own branch and across the country who contacted him about their own family members with chemical dependency after reading about James in the postal record. After making his story public, Pat, who was an Army veteran, heard from many other letter carriers about their own struggles with addiction, depression, or mental illness in their own families. I was shocked at how many people are dealing with similar problems, he said. And Pat's willingness to be honest about his son led carriers across the country to reach out and make this private problem public in an effort to prevent similar outcomes. He wanted others to know how bad things can happen to good families and that it wasn't a reflection on them, so they didn't need to hide it and suffer in silence. Inspired by Pat's experience and his efforts to educate fellow carriers and the broader public about the need to remove the stigma of addiction, the Postal Service's Employee Assistance Program launched the Silent No More initiative. The program is designed to help postal employees and their families break through the stigma and the shame, whether by helping with suicide, mental illness, or chemical dependency, and to share personal stories. Silent No More urges postal employees to share their experiences with a mental health issue, their own or a family member's, for which they received help from the EAP. In naming Pat the Education Award winner, the judges said that they were impressed that someone could transform such a personal tragedy into a mission to help countless other people. Awareness, prevention, and education are so important to solving problems like these. I never considered what I had done to be heroic, Pat said. Nevertheless, he's happy that the award is leading to a renewed awareness of the Silent No More campaign and the problems of suicide and addiction. Pat, please accept our heartfelt appreciation for the work you're doing to help other people, and please accept the 2016 Special Education Award. Pat Byrne.
Well, thank you, President Rolando, and thank you all for coming out. Appreciate our national officers being here. Appreciate my fellow veterans being here, and most importantly, I'm so proud to be with my fellow honorees. As Fred said, we're trying to do something, make something positive out of something that is unimaginably negative. I had an opportunity last night in private with my fellow honorees to share our stories, and it was very cathartic. I couldn't believe how emotional we all became over each other's stories, and how that freed, the sense of freedom that it bestowed upon us. I want to particularly thank Manny Peralta, our Director of Health and Safety, for encouraging me and allowing me a platform to tell my story. This isn't easy. It's not easy. It sounds like it makes sense, right? We can take a personal tragedy that families who endure this often feel stigmatized. We often take a look and say, what did we do wrong? What did I do wrong as a father? What was my shortcoming? And we tend not to share these type of stories. It's kind of natural. My son died of an accidental heroin overdose, but I have so much in common with families who've lost children through suicide, families who have children with mental illness, whether treated or untreated, and the consequences that come from that. So I did have some remarks prepared. Fred had asked me to keep it under 45 minutes. And I did have it down to 42, but I lost those notes. So we could go on for a while, but we're not going to. I want to just issue two challenges. I want to take this opportunity to do that, okay? Silent No More. It's an initiative, all right? The thought behind it is pretty simple. If we discuss it, if we shine a light on our problems, then we collectively can find a solution. It's not normal for a parent to say goodbye to their child. That's not normal. That's not the progression of life. You know, we all have an expiration date, including our children, but ours should come first. So there's two things that I'm going to ask you. First of all, we're going to take this Silent No More initiative and we're going to kick it up some, all right? It's not enough to be an initiative. It has to be a movement. And then perhaps the movement's not enough. Perhaps it's going to be a revolution. But at some point in time, we have to say no more. No more. Our children aren't going to predecease us. It's not the natural progression of life. The changes that it makes on a family, I can't begin to articulate it. I wish so much that my wife could be here with me. She certainly supports my efforts. However, as you might well imagine, it's awful tough for her. You know, it's like taking that scab off every single time, and it doesn't get much easier for her. I guess I deal with it a little bit better, but I also see that we can make this into something which is very positive, which we can perhaps prevent other families, you know, from experiencing this. So the two challenges, I ask that you encourage other people that you know who have problems, because we all know them, to come forward, to seek help. Don't hide, tell your stories. And the second challenge is pretty simple. Today, at some point, please tell your children that you love them. Thank you.